government has lost its bid to keep secret the coronavirus briefings used to justify sending Victorians into the world's longest lockdown. So we might soon find out what led to these decisions.
Exercise is just that. It's not an opportunity for 7 families to catch up in the park. There will be no removal of masks to consume alcohol outdoors. A whole bunch of people down the Ryback Beach last night who thought the best thing to do was to go and watch the sunset. I'm sure it was a beautiful sunset, but that's not in the spirit or in the letter of these rules.
Oh, it just sends shivers up my spine, let me tell you this. Tina, no wonder Labor wanted to keep this quiet.
It triggers me.
It's triggering. It's scary.
Everyone. Yeah, of course they want to keep it quiet. Look, I hope everything's released, and I hope we find out there was the utter nonsense that was involved in enforcing these laws on everyone down there. Just disgraceful. I mean, it was bad enough in New South Wales, but Victoria went way over the top, and there should be consequences of that guy's actions, honest to God. The amount of destruction and distress he's caused that's still ongoing now is an absolute disgrace, and people should never, ever forget that and never succumb to anything like that again.
I agree, and that's a good point. We are still feeling the effects of COVID. And I know, Tania, you're not big on a royal commission, but I still believe we need a royal commission because we need to hear what went wrong. I still think we as the public, even years later, deserve to know what happened.
Well, let's start with trying to get this these GIPA and FOI documents from the government
released,
first.
yes.
Yeah. Look, I think they've really... Sometimes the cover-up is worse than the crime, and I don't get why the Labor Party is doing this down in Victoria. I would have just released these documents. Much of what I think they were doing, particularly down in Andrews, was actually on the fly. I don't think there was any written instructions or paperwork behind that in any event. There's no one for him to blame for the decisions that he came up with. I think what we're going to find is it wasn't much about science, but more about politics.
Absolutely.
A lot of their decisions. Look, they've already had the tribunal say release it. They've had a court back that up. The Human Rights Commission last week said there was horrible atrocities during that period. They've just got to release these documents and get it done with. You know, stop hiding behind the idea that frontline services and people will be impacted and their privacy will be impacted. You can redact names if you have to, but get the paperwork out.
Get the paper out. We deserve to know.
If we don't find out.
I agree. We deserve to know. The public deserves to know. Now, let's go to Queensland, where the government there will reportedly consider a proposal for a new 60,000-seat Olympic stadium in Brisbane. Nine News is reporting that the state cabinet will review the proposal on Monday. It comes after an independent review panel found that there was not enough time before the Olympics to rebuild the Gabba into an Olympic venue. Tina, this is going to be interesting. I think maybe a political hurdle for David Crisafulli there, because he promised during the election that there would be no new stadiums under his watch, and now he could be reneging on that. How do you think that will play out?
Well, I'm not so concerned with the state governments, but I'm concerned how it'll impact a federal election. You know, if he has to go back on his word. I can't understand why this review is released so late. I mean, we're very fastly creeping up to that Olympics. So it's going to be interesting how he manages that. I think cost will be a major factor when it goes before the cabinet. So we'll just wait and see.
Well, because the thing is, Olympics are a burden on any economy. Huge burden. And that is something he has to take into effect in general, Tania. But now to then rebuild a whole stadium, that's a lot of money.
Well, look, it looks terrible for him to renege on his pledge that he only did a few months ago. But I've also got to say, look, be careful, because 2000 Sydney Olympics, we built a lot of infrastructure at that time that have become redundant. And a good example of that is the velodrome in Bankstown is a total white elephant, okay? So I think what's most important is there are alternative uses. Whatever you do build in Brisbane, you want to make sure that that stadium can actually be used beyond 2032 Olympics. What else can Queenslanders do with the site? You know, will there be a good return to the Queenslander? That's how you make an announcement. You announce that there's other alternatives other than the use for Olympics, so that Queenslanders can actually see that there's value for money.
It needs value for money, absolutely. Well, we've run out of time. That goes so quick, our panel, doesn't it? Tania, Mihailuk, Tina McQueen, good to have you both on. Have a nice weekend. Thank you so much for joining me.